I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor of down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties, and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks. Some land use concerns he has around speculators.
Folks who do not live in Los Angeles, do not know Los Angeles, do not know California, do not know how hard we fight for each other in a crisis. Folks who want to point the blame at a number of different factors when we're dealing with a natural climate emergency that we have to step into. When we're dealing with a natural climate emergency that we have to step into.
Look out for Charlie.
I'm going to bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head.
Man, I have other stuff to talk about, but I keep seeing more and more insane things in all this footage, and I can't move forward until I say something about it. Like, I have to say something about it because it's insane. Let me say first that, you know, my dad was a metallurgist. And when I was a little kid, my dad brought home all sorts of bizarre metals and other materials when I was, really, really little. For like a 3-year-old, all the way up to 12, it was like magic shit. Like liquid metals, bags of material that sparked when it hit the ground, metal inside of a plastic film roll that weighed an enormous amount for how small the size actually was. I could go on, but, it was magic shit to a kid. And he wasn't just a metallurgist. The place that he worked at employed a lot of people. He was in charge of the off switch at that company. If the numbers weren't right and if the product wasn't pure, my dad had to hit the off switch, which boils down to like $1 million a minute that the place was offline. And, if this metallurgist had seen some of these photos and this evidence, he would have been absolutely slack-jawed. Like the first time that Danny Jawenko watched Building 7 come down, for real. I don't have the same level of knowledge that my dad had with metallurgy, but he certainly passed the fundamentals down, and he was also a welder. He was a lot of things, but he was a welder as well. And I carefully learned and watched him weld and work with metal for my entire childhood. And besides all of this, there is just basic science and common sense. And we're going to use a lot of that in this video. Because there are just insane anomalies, and I'm just done. I'm done. I'm not arguing it anymore. We are past that. I brought up aluminum melting in these new fires. These quote-unquote new fires in my last videos. Well, now we're way beyond that. We have slipped into a total and complete fever dream reality. There's a video that I found, and I cut it down to just the brass tacks. And I'm going to go through it and show you what is there and the insane impossibilities. And like I said, I have brought up aluminum melting, but we are far, far beyond that now. These cars are missing wheels. They are missing the engine. They're missing the transmission. They're missing the axles. And now they're even missing the hood and the body panels. There is something up with that. 99.5% of cars have a common material that all body panels are made out of: steel. Steel is not aluminum or alloy. Steel is steel, sheet steel. Whatever gauge it is, it's sheet steel. Steel with a high melting point. Have you ever held a car axle? It is like holding a solid rod of steel. Do you know what's in a transmission? Have you ever cracked open a transmission? It's full of gears, much like a clock, a lot like a clock. And what is the most common material for transmission gears? Steel. Steel transmission gears, right? Hoods, fenders, car doors, all of that. Full on sheet steel. So like this truck here, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's like half in the street or in a parking lot here, whatever. But there's nothing around it. And it's completely burned out. And you're going to see this over and over. The hood is completely and totally vaporized. Sheet steel is completely and totally vaporized. Now the headlights are gone and the grill, okay, that's plastic. Most of that is plastic now. Get it. But the hood being gone is insanity. And this isn't one anomaly. This happens over and over. You're going to see some crazy shit. Let's go through this video here. So this guy is a little, he cuts some suspect stuff out, but he catches a lot. And he's riding his little electric bike around, you know, where the fires went down. Let's check this out.
This entire block is gone, except for this Volkswagen.
Blocks are gone, and this Volkswagen is still sitting here. Now, cars, you have to remember this, they have rubber wheels. They are not grounded to the earth like a house, right? The electrical system of the car is grounded to the chassis, to the frame, right? And that kind of grounds to the negative of the battery. And that's kind of how that works. So it's not really grounded in the traditional sense. It's grounded to the chassis.
It appears there was a baseball bat.
He pulls a baseball bat off the ground that was in the trunk of this car. Now this is a sheet steel body. This was in the trunk. The fire got so hot, even though nothing burned around it, the floor was vaporized and the bat fell out, an aluminum bat fell out through the vaporized sheet steel. Do you understand what is wrong with this? But these aluminum wheels melted. Very, very bizarre. And we have to use common sense here. It's what I was talking about in the beginning of the video. There aren't fires around this blasting like it's in a furnace. This burned by itself. And you're going to see this over and over.
Looking at it.
Now, check this out. The ATM is all burned and melted out. But look at that. Look at the ATM. Now, look at that. It looks more like the electronics heated up to the point of melting everything.
See inside there's ashes all on the inside.
So there are ashes on the floor of this place, but everything is still intact. What burned? So this store survived, but there are ashes on the floor in there. What? How are people seeing this and not seeing the insane anomalies? And it gets way worse. Way worse. Check this out and pay attention. Here's a Mercedes. It's on the street. It's a ragtop. You know, very few cars actually survived because it doesn't matter about being around the fire in these fires. The vehicle can burn in the middle of a lot, right? And you're not going to tell me that some ember landed on a pickup truck and just burned the whole thing out. It's a fucking steel truck, man. You know, it's madness. But pay attention here, because this Mercedes is a ragtop and it survived. And you're going to see something that I'm going to show you that is a very, very strange coincidence.
Mercedes untouched.
Another one. Another Mercedes is untouched. And check this out. It's a ragtop. So a second car on the street is not burned out, and it happens to be a ragtop. Less metal, that's for sure. Doesn't have a glass window in the back. Has a plastic window because that top has to roll back and then fit down behind the back seat. Pay attention to that. There's two now. Keep going.
It is very dusty. A new construction going up.
Another coincidence. Every time this guy passes a new structure, it's not burned down. So right there, they were building a new building and it doesn't burn down. Now let's think about this. The plumbing isn't hooked up from the ground. The wiring isn't put into the home yet. The electricity isn't turned on yet. There are multiple factors here. Now, people were trying to blame this on smart meters, right? And smart meters could totally aid in the burning of a house. I totally get that. I'm not saying that it can't do that. But what I'm saying is a smart meter doesn't have anything to do with a car burning down. You know, in the middle of a parking lot somewhere, right? That part doesn't make sense. They're trying to blame it on smart meters, but that doesn't line up. Sure, it can help, but that's not the deciding factor here. But every new building doesn't burn. And it's not because, you know, somebody in the know didn't burn it down. It's because it doesn't have something that the rest of them did. Okay, that I-beam has melted. Like 9/11 melted. An I-beam. It's made of steel. I'm talking an I-beam. Oh man, it's a melted I-beam. Think about this. what the fire temperature had to be to melt an I-beam and get it to point up into the air like that. That is absolute madness. It is madness, man. We are talking thousands of degrees. Moving on.
Oh, this car up here.
Look at this. The wheels are bent out, right? Like someone broke a tie rod or broke an axle. When that happens, the wheels will just bloop, pop out like that. Or some retards out there do that when they're messing with their camber. But this is doing that because the tie rods and the axles and everything are vaporized. The engine is vaporized. The hood is vaporized. The body panels are vaporized. There's the melted metal in the driveway. Every piece of this car is vaporized, man. Vaporized. And this was not surrounded by some inferno because the grass is still green. It's not scorched black. It's dark over here because of the heat from the car. This is madness, man. Now here, this car is missing the wheels, the engine, the hood, the doors, the windows, and the entire top of the car as well. This is exactly like thermite. How could somebody run around a city and coat everything in thermite? Well, they really couldn't. That's ridiculous. But if you are putting aluminum, nano-aluminum, which nano-aluminum levels in the soil and in our atmosphere are thousands of percentages higher than they were 20 years ago. So if you're putting this aluminum and, let's say, iron oxide into the air, and you lay that stuff down over time, and it's falling down like spray paint on everything, you have a dirty version of thermite that is making everything extra flammable. And it doesn't take much. If everything is coated in a fine coat of this stuff, you're not even going to notice it.
Another Tesla.
The Tesla is in totally one piece. So it is not the big lithium battery in the car. It's totally burned out, but it's totally in one piece. So it has nothing to do with the lithium battery. If there's lithium involved, it's because it's coming down from above. Let me show you a photo of a car that was intentionally burned. Marshall Iwasa. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But he went missing in Canada, and his truck was found up in the mountains, burned out. I'll get into that case at another time because there are some anomalies to that. But this was lit intentionally, torched by someone intentionally. The hood is still there. The body panels are still there. The interior is rocked out, totally rocked out, and the glass is gone. That is typical. The wheels are still totally intact, and the tires are melted, torched. That is what every car in a fire like that should look like. That is what it should look like. Here it is later on, after it had really began to rust. And the doors are open. Someone had opened the doors, but the hood is there. The doors are there. Everything is still there. Even in the back of the truck, everything is still there. It's just torched. And that is what a vehicle should look like. Moving on. Here is another new construction, and the entire neighborhood is wiped out. But the new construction somehow prevailed. Now think about that. This happens over and over. I'm just showing you a few of them. All the coincidences. This doesn't have the infrastructure inside of it. It doesn't have the electricity. It's not hooked up yet. The plumbing isn't hooked up, which does what? It goes down into the ground. It grounds down in the ground. So let's consider something when we look at a couple more of these photos. Here's another car proving that it happens over and over and over and over and over. The doors are gone. The windows are gone. The wheels are gone, melted out. The hood is absolutely and totally vaporized. The crash bar in the front is completely and totally vaporized. What is going on? The engine is gone. The engine is gone. The transmission with all its steel gears are gone. The steel axle is gone. What is going on?
On the street.
Here's another one. It's not near anything. It wasn't in an inferno around it. This would be a different story if this was in an inferno that was being stoked for hours and hours, you know. But everything is gone. The wheels are gone. The axles are gone. The doors are gone. We're talking steel now, not aluminum, man. We are talking steel that is totally vaporized. Vaporized steel. Look at that.
Car is absolutely gone.
Now look at this
See?
car. This car survived. And this is very, very important. Remember that I said a car isn't really grounded. And remember when I was talking about the house and the plumbing and everything and coming from the ground, right? Check this out. The side skirts melted from the bottom, facing the road, away from the home, near the ground. Totally melted. That is tough ass plastic. And it is close to the ground and facing away from the fire, and it melted. There is something going on here, but otherwise the car is fine. This is totally messed up, and this is excellent evidence right here.
But the car remains.
This car is sitting there. It was there during the fire. You can tell by the dust and the soot and everything that's on it. And this car is just 12 feet from it, 13 feet. And it is completely and totally vaporized. There's no other word for it. This is not melted. This is totally vaporized. This is an impossibility. But the house over here, this isn't vaporized. But the car is vaporized. And again, how did an ember fly through the air and then land on the car and just ignite it on fire? If you're defending this in your head, you're not thinking in reality. Could it happen? It could happen one time if one flew the right way and got down into was blown up into the engine bay somehow and then caught the wiring system on fire or did something like that, right? But the idea, the coincidence that it happened over and over and over and over is absolutely retarded. So, you know, people were talking about, well, older vehicles were just made different. There's a vaporized older truck, man. Totally vaporized.
It's not this truck.
There's a vaporized car right next to it. But there isn't anything around it that would burn hot enough to vaporize either one of them. We're not thinking in reality anymore. This is a fever dream reality. There's another truck right there. The wheels are totally gone. You got part of the wheel over here. No hood. It's madness. Now look at this. Check out the wall. There's nothing there to burn. It's sidewalk. But you have scorch marks going up the wall. And this is something that I find very, very interesting. You know how even a light bulb can scorch something if it's real close to it? That's the look that this has. It looks like there was so much heat radiating from the ground that it scorched the wall. That is totally interesting. Now, he rolls up on this and he doesn't say anything. But if you look, that looks like a wheel there. And I'm not positive, but it looks like that was a car. There are burn marks around it, and they are car parts. That whole argument that old cars were just made different is total bullshit, and we're going to see some very interesting stuff.
Did survive here?
There's another one. Missing the hood, the engine, the trans, everything. Everything. It vaporized the hoods over and over and over. Sheet steel. Sheet fucking steel, man. This is why I'm done. I can't deal with the stupidity. Sheet steel. Not one anomaly. Over and over and over. Sheet steel. There's another house that looks like it's being built. I'm not positive, but that looks like something that's being worked on or being built. And that one survived.
One of the few remaining homes in this entire neighborhood.
Okay, here we go. This is where it starts. This is a classic truck. Completely vaporized. The bed is vaporized. Could have been a wood bed, right? Not the doors. The doors are vaporized. The front is vaporized. Everything is vaporized, and there is melted metal underneath this classic truck.
Looks like some sort of retro truck here.
Okay, unburned. So for whatever reason, that one survived, and that one survived, and that one survived. So 3 cars, there's someone in that truck. So 3 cars in one particular area survived. 1, 2, 3. So 3 survived in just that triangle right there. There's a reason. We need to figure out that reason. There's another car. That looks like those are the brake rotors, not the wheels. The hood is vaporized. The fenders are vaporized. The roof is vaporized. Everything is vaporized. The doors are vaporized. The only thing that's left are those thick-ass brake rotors. Okay, here's another example that blows the whole, oh, cars were just made different back then. Here's a classic car. I won't get into the make and the model, but it got the scorch, right? And shit on the car melted too. Let's check it out.
Paint, man.
It's not paint. I'm going to be a dick here. This guy is riding around on a e-scooter or an e-bike. He's got his gloves on. He's got all his technology. He's got a press pass. He's cruising around. He's an adult male, and he thinks that that's melted paint. This is why the media and the press, they employ people like this that just don't understand reality. That's why men are different now. It's very weird to me. He thinks that's paint. But it's melted everywhere. If you look, there is melted shit coming off this car everywhere. And not just plastic. Again, going into these people that work for the media. He says something about the people whose houses survived here that I found very interesting. Let's check this out real quick.
Bro, the neighborhood is like gone, and like, how can you just continue on, you know, living here even if your house did make it?
See, that's what they want. That's exactly what they want. Well, everybody else's shit burned out, so you got to go too. And then that way they can take all the land and there are no holdouts. And it's kind of weird. I found it kind of weird that that guy took that stance. Well, why would you want to stay? Because everybody else lost their house. So why would you want to stay? I wouldn't go anywhere. Look at that. All melted. Axles are gone on this car, or else the wheels wouldn't just fold in like that. Telling you, man, vaporized engines, vaporized transmissions, vaporized everything. Look at the front view of this car. There is no engine. There is no transmission. There are no axles. There's nothing. There are no doors. There's no hood. It's all gone. It's vaporized. Where are the gears to the transmission? Where is all this stuff? When you're looking at the ashes of a house, these are rich areas. Lots of people have safes, but lots of rich people have safes too. Big safes. Where are all the safes? A box sitting there. None of them. It's all gone. Another car survived. It's a Porsche 911. Look at the top. That's like the 3rd ragtop I've showed in this video. I find that very, very interesting that a high percentage of these cars that survived in this neighborhood all have ragtops. So hundreds of thousands of magic embers are flying around that are eating through steel cars and torching them to the point where they are vaporized, but all the ragtops in the neighborhood somehow survive, and the embers don't eat through the rag top. Are you people high on the hard stuff? Fuck! That car is in the middle of the street, and he paid no attention to it. Let's go back to it. That looks like an older truck with a cab, right? And it's just gone. The hatch is gone. The back is gone. I'm not even sure what that is, but everything is gone, man. Just gone. And there was nothing close enough to burn it down. Here is where people abandoned their cars. People got out and started walking, and eventually they had to come through, I guess, and bulldoze these cars out of the way. All these cars survived.
Because the fire trucks had to get through.
But right there, all these cars in this area all got torched. Nothing around them got torched at all.
And
I'm not talking got
You see the
burned a
footage
little bit. I'm talking
of the bulldozers
vaporized.
coming.
My God, please tell me that people out there are realizing how retarded and ridiculous this is. Look at the melted metal on the ground. Okay, you have to understand this, man. Have you ever, I said this earlier, if you've ever held an axle in your hand, it's like a steel bar. The axles are gone. The transmission is gone. The engine is gone. The sheet steel hood is gone. Every one of these cars is missing the hood and everything just like that. It's as if certain areas are very, very conductive.
And yes, this to me, I feel like, is that paint?
It's not paint, bro. It's not. I get so mad. It's not paint. Look at that wheel. I can't believe that an adult man and he thinks it's paint. Think about, all the photos and the footage that you've seen where one house survives, out of the whole block, right? And certain cars do, certain cars don't. The cars are not grounded to the earth, like I said. It depends on where they're at. Because that triangle that I showed you earlier, all three survived right there. Bam, bam, bam. They were fine. And then certain sections, everything will be wiped out, right? Even if there's not a fire around it. But these houses, you have like one house that will stand. Now, what if the polarity in the area was being flipped on its head and the ground was becoming hot, like a hot neutral switch? We know that the new structures don't have the plumbing and the electrical and everything hooked up yet, right? It's not functional. But what about the older houses, the lone older houses on these blocks that are still standing? What about those ones? Because you will have, entire areas, the whole neighborhood will be gone, and then this one house will still be standing there. So what if these houses that are still standing have grounding problems? The one time where a grounding problem helped you out because it couldn't be flipped on its head. Because that's what it seems like. It seems like they're using something that is in the environment, like the crap that is coming down on everything and getting into everything. And since it's so nano small, it's being absorbed by everything and it's on everything. So it's accelerating things. And at the same time, it seems like everything is being flipped on its head. Like how a blow dryer or a heat gun, if you have it plugged into a wall or, God forbid, a power strip, it'll get hot. It'll get really hot. Or the core will get hot. Or the outlet will get hot. It's like that. It's like everything is being flipped on its head. And the polarity is being flipped. It's like a hot neutral switch. And we are beyond anomalies with this sheet steel and all the shit vaporizing. And again, you have these cars that are missing everything. There is nothing, let me bring this down, there is nothing in that engine bay. There is nothing left at all. No axles, no transmission, no engine, no wheels, nothing, absolutely nothing, no hood, nothing. This is beyond anomaly now. You would have to be retarded to not notice that something is up. And if the car was parked in the right area, like that weird Bermuda Triangle of cars that survived, then they're fine. In the zone, they're gone. If you want your stuff to survive a new normal wildfire, here's what you gotta do. You gotta start working on a house, but don't connect the electricity or the plumbing or the circuit breaker. And the most important rule, there are thousands of flying embers around that are going through steel cars like this in the middle of lots, out in the open, melting and literally disintegrating them. So what you need to do is you need to buy a brag top. Buying a rag top will save you from the magical flying embers.